Greetings everyone, and welcome to Anime Night in the Dojo. Today's featured show, My Dress Up Darling, Season 2.
Yep, My Dress Up Darling, Season 2, Episode 8. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm Ryu. That's Age. We're back for more Anime Night in the dojo. And well, last week Marian got a camera, and they did camera things. And never showed off the socks. I was going to go back and see if that was a thing in the source material, but I didn't have time. But yeah, I think that bit was only a couple panels, so they kind of, added to it. Which is fine, but the whole purpose of that was she got the poofy socks, and, they were supposed to take pictures of it, and there was like one full body shot of her in like every picture they showed in that like, slideshow of Gojo taking pictures of Marian. So the camera works, that's cool, everybody's excited about it, but Gojo got a little off task there. I mean, but that is what it is. December is starting, so I guess all this does happen towards the end of the year, like the entirety of the series kind of happens in the course of like a little over a year. So yeah, we're really packing it in December based on what they're going to be doing in the last bit of this season, and then wherever they kind of leave us on, because I believe we're going to be heading into the late 60s, early 70s chapter-wise, and if they do, 40 chapters again, then we'll be somewhere in the 80s, because once again, if they do 40 chapters a season, that'll pretty much put it to the end of the series at end of season 3, no problem, with the way they've been adding stuff. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those things where I can't imagine they won't finish the series in anime form. They only need one more season. Yeah. Even if they, add a bunch of stuff to season 3, like if the author wanted to add, some post stuff like they did for, the post stuff that usually happens. But, I would be surprised if we didn't get a season 3 to finish the entirety of the series, since, it's not like Komi where they need 6 more seasons. They want to do everything.
Yeah.
So, I'd assume we'll probably get that announcement next year at some point, because once again, the source material is done, and the author did do a little epilogue thing, so maybe they'll do a little addition, but I can't imagine that they won't. So, yeah. Either way, we're heading into the next set of stuff that's going on after camera stuff, which it's the nun stuff. You see it in the OP. Yeah. It's not really a spoiler when it's the OP. You know it's going to be part of the season. So some interesting stuff happens during this. So I'm very interested to see how this is handled in anime form. So a lot of character interactions really ramp up, and I'll just leave it at that, because I can't talk about it until the stuff happens, but this is one of the more interesting parts of the source material for me based on the things that occur. So I got nothing else going into this one, so people on Patreon will get the timer stuff ready for you, and people over on YouTube will see you on the other side of the edit for the review and discussion, as always. So let's push some buttons and get going here. So here goes something. Yep, so there you have it. That was certainly a thing. They did a good job with these, the way they animated these panels with her freaking out and stuff like that. Just, I mentioned a little bit at the end of the reaction there, but every addition that they've made to this so far, especially this season. First season was good too. There's nothing wrong with it, obviously. There wasn't a huge amount of additions from after I read the source material after watching the first season. But the additions they made for this have been all very good. The Aoi cut-ins that we mentioned, those were great. Her freaking out about, the guy in drag, that kind of thing. Just the way it brought the scene to life even more. That's exactly what you want to see out of stuff like this. And every edition has been in the flow of the source material. Objectively, 100%. You can disagree with it, but you could not like it, but you can't objectively look at this and say all the things that they've added don't make sense as to what would fit in with the author's original intent. because this is exactly the vibe that they were going for. So there's not really a huge amount to talk about with this one. They talked about, you know, cosplayer lines and stuff like that, how to deal with, you know, situations where everybody wants to get a picture of you. Well, at a cosplay event, you're there to have fun and stuff like that, but it's not like he was being paid to be a model that these people were, you know, lining up to get a picture with him because they paid money. That was just, oh, can I get a picture, you know, and it's just being a nice person, right? At a certain point, if you're super popular, you gotta go to a reasonable point in the line and go, hey, you gotta turn around and say the line ends with you because I can't be here all day taking pictures. You know what I mean? Unless you're like contracted to be a cosplayer of a certain thing and they are paying you to allow people to take pictures of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unless you're like a actual like freaking what's the term for it? Drawing a blank, but yeah, unless you're actually there as a part of the convention and supposed to be doing photo shoots and stuff like that, then you don't actually owe anyone photos.
Yeah. So you absolutely could just go to an event like that and just say, I'm not taking any photos today. Just go full Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I don't get fined. I'm not doing any photos today. You could like have like a thing on your shirt that says, I'm not taking photos today, don't ask me. Like the hello, I'm not taking photos today guy. Because, you know, everyone's there to have fun and you absolutely don't need to be pressured into take any pictures if you don't want to ever. You know what I mean? You could just take the photos that you want with, say, like how Juju and her sister do it. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And that's all you do. You want the memories from the convention that you go to, but you're not willing to, you know, give it out to a bunch of random strangers. You know what I mean? At a certain point, you also have to be wary of, you know, some of these people could, you know, obviously in show form they all seem reasonable, but you never know what somebody's going to do with pictures. Just saying. Yeah. So you got to be kind of you almost want to get like credentialed. You know what I mean? Like, hey, can you prove that you have like a legit website and you're not like some creepy perv? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just one of those things where a lot of people kind of take that for granted. Maybe if you're in like full cosplay, and like in the case of what's his name here, they can't even like tell he's a guy, right? So yeah. It's different if you're in like such a full cosplay that nobody can tell that it's you. You know what I mean? Then it probably doesn't matter very much. It's like, oh, that's just like a really good Ichigo or whatever. But if people can tell it's you, then that's where it becomes the problem. You know. So it just really depends, but they highlighted some of the things that are, you know, important for stuff like that, like, you know, putting an end of your line, the fact that even simple cosplays like this, you know, she was, for anybody who didn't understand what was happening here, because they did a fairly quick cut in on that, it's a basketball anime in their universe, and that's what she's cosplaying, and They were talking about a little bit during the reaction there that like, oh, they have so much fan service, and wow, the Crunchyroll player's all over me after like 3 minutes. Holy crap. But hold on, I'm raising my eyebrow at sexual violence as a tag. What? Where? Crunchyroll, point towards the sexual violence in this episode. I want to know. Where was there sexual violence? There was smoking. A kidder was smoking in the bathroom. But suggestive dialogue, of course. Sexualized themes, yeah. Sexual violence. That's a massive eyebrow raiser to me. And I guess maybe I should pay more attention to some of the tags, because that's just flat out untrue.
Yeah, there wasn't any violence of any sort in the episode at all.
Yeah, so I don't know what whoever tagged that. What? That's a supreme eyebrow raiser, and that could, you know, give people some wrong impressions. There is absolutely no sexual violence in this entire series. You know what I mean? So that's a very questionable tag. It's not even questionable. It's flat out wrong, objectively incorrect. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe somebody clicked the wrong drop-down menu tag. Instead of sexual themes, maybe they put sexualized violence. Yeah, no. So I don't know what's up with that. But I digress. I was going to talk about how they were talking about the fan service in the basketball anime. And what's his name was like, I don't remember any fan service. Well, as a guy, if you see a locker room scene and there's a bunch of guys in towels in the shower, you don't really think of that as fan service. You're just like, yeah, that's a locker room, whatever. For girls, that's different. Obviously, that's going to be fan service for people who are into that. So, yeah. Fan service is fairly subjective when it comes to stuff like that, especially. So, yeah, I assume since it's a basketball anime, any sports anime or any sports related anything, they're probably going to have locker room scenes where they're in the shower in towels and stuff.
Yeah.
So, just saying. That's probably going to get most women folk hot and bothered, as per everything that happened in this sequence. So, yes, that was definitely a thing. But learning about camera angles, stuff like that, spot on. All the stuff they talked about here, you know, camera tricks, stuff like that. They alluded back to what Juju's sister was doing when she was taking her shots. You know, you can get the cute angle if you're like up here. You can get the better, like, you know, low from the low angle stuff that she showed off from there. You know, angles, lighting, everything all adds up. Filters, all those kind of things. Shutter speed, they all matter. They're all tricks of the trade. Glad they're talking about it. They're all accurate. Nothing really to say other than that. So it's cool that they did that and added to it from the source material a little bit. I am a little bummed that just a tiny bit, because in the source material, when Gojo's having this discussion with Akira and he's talking about how he didn't send her like all of the stuff that he wanted to say to her when she was just like, oh, there was more. There was a couple panels where Gojo's just like sitting there or lying there in his futon at night and just looking at his phone like, do I send this message? And then it's like the next day and the next day and the next day, and then he finally sends the message. That would have been pretty comical, but every other thing they added was, you know, makes up for that. Kind of like the that little slight last episode where Gojo has like the mini freak out of Marion like making the kissy face at him. They left out for whatever reason, which again, not a huge deal, but that Gojo, you know, staring up at the phone at night would have been kind of funny. But the way they handle it pretty much the same thing. It was no different than when they did. These cut-ins were great. She is real, by the way. She does exist. She's not just somebody on a phone. She does exist. But the fact that they did this sequence slightly differently during the episode where Maureen shows up, she just kind of shows up like walking down the street, like, oh hey, I found you. You guys are over there by the bench. But the way they did this here was hilarious. So that kind of just like subtle change made it even more hilarious because, you know, you have this, you have the additional Akira shot, which we can't talk about right now, and then the fact that they used the frickin' arrow to show that Marian's just running along the wall and then running down the stairs and then coming over here.
Yeah, I've always liked arrow gags, like ever since like the biggest one for me was that like always stood out for me was the freaking arrow at the beginning of Boron in episode 1.
Right.
But yeah, like the vast majority of these kind of like arrow gags like this I've always liked.
Yep. It's been a while since we've seen one, and there's a lot of them that are just like, you are here and you've gone this far, and there's just using like a giant arrow to show you've gone like 5 feet. So this was a solid addition to that. This whole sequence was good. The whole you know, it's a small world situation. It's like, oh, I'm here with one of my friends who does you know, like custom props and stuff too. There's no possible way that Gojo could be meeting the same person, right?
Well, I mean, it's once again double misunderstanding of she thought her friend was meeting a chick, and Marin thought that Gojo was meeting a guy. So neither of them made any sort of connection there.
Right. Which, again, yes, hyper generally speaking, Wakana is more of a feminine name in Japanese culture, and they do kind of like do like an offshoot like editor thing, like, hey, Wakana is, you know, like this percentage of people, you know what I mean, from each gender kind of deal. I forgot what the percentage was. It was accurate though when I looked it up. So it's traditionally slightly more of a feminine name, but I mean, they did the us guys, us gals thing in hilarious fashion to explain the situation, because, you know, what was it? I forgot where it was from, but it was just like, guys is a genderless term, and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
You can use guys or gals, whatever. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows what you're talking about. Just who cares? But yeah, just the classic misunderstandings leading to the small world situation is always great. Them talking about how the fact that, again, and I'll say it, they've run out of time with MHA, obviously. Maybe they'll do it for what happens when MHA ends or whatever, but this is exactly what me and Age wanted when they did May's Baby Academia for the first time in like season 5, when she was like explaining I think it was one of the pieces of Deku's equipment, and it's just like, just have her do that for everybody's equipment. It'll be hilarious. You know what I mean? And they never did it again. It was a one-off. It was a real bummer. And then they just, you know, say, hold my beer, we're going to do the rule of threes of this in one episode. So, bravo. Well done. And the third one was the hilarious one, because it was just her sobbing because she couldn't go to the cosplay event for the nun thing.
Yeah, they got the third one in there for the rule of threes and got the fourth wall break in it.
Yep. Because once again, in the source material, she's just in what's her name, Suzuka's text that just says, yeah, I can't go, stupid work, I have to work overtime or something. I think she's a nurse. I think this character's like a nurse or something. So she has like a really weird schedule, but I know she does show up at I'm pretty sure she does show up at some point for real. But yeah, she's really bummed out in text form, but it's nice that they actually made her a character for this part of it. So, well done. But this whole sequence, you know, Gojo like coming to the realization that other people have dolls and hobbies and stuff like that, and slowly getting away from that childhood trauma, man. That's the overarching thing of the series, which again, it's like a lot of people like, you know, say that stuff of like, oh, aren't you too old for this? Or I can't believe you work on a kid's show. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you think 5-year-olds do their own content and they make their own shows? Do you think 5-year-olds produce and run Sesame Street? You know what I mean? It's like, what are you even talking about? You're never too old or too young for anything, barring like a few very, very hyper specific things. You know what I mean? So
it's almost like it's the adult's job to teach kids.
Yeah. So if you like dolls or whatever, who cares? So have some. You know, if you want to paint, you know, models or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you collect Pokemon cards, or it doesn't matter. It's a hobby. You do whatever you want. Don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do with your own damn time, because it's your time and your life, not theirs. So they can right along. You know what I mean? How does what you're doing affect them? Always baffling to me. You know, you just see somebody on a diet, right? And they're like walking by a donut shop and they just like yell at somebody like, hey, I'm on a diet, you can't eat a donut. And I'm just like, and you are?
Yeah, freaking. That's just getting way too common these days. The whole like, oh, I don't like something, so no one should be able to have anything to do with it.
Yep. Like, and we've talked about this a bunch before. It's like, there are certain things that I don't like, you know, but I'm not going to say, hey, you guys are dumb for liking this thing. It's like, okay, have fun with it. I'll be over here just continuing to not care about it, but it doesn't bother me that you guys are enjoying whatever this thing is. It's fine. But I mean, I don't care. It does not affect me. I don't sit up at night thinking, I can't believe one of my friends plays World of Warcraft. What a total asshole. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Who cares? You know what I mean?
No, I don't like World of Warcraft, so World of Warcraft should be illegal and removed from the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
As well as any and all information pertaining to the fact that it's ever existed.
Yep. It's just, it's always baffling to me when you come across people with that kind of mindset. It's like, why do you care so much? You know, well, once again, anybody that complains about those kinds of things that are online like as much, and it's like, man, your life must be super freaking amazing if you're down to complaining about this kind of thing all the time or worrying about what other people are doing with their time. You know what I mean? If that's keeping you up at night or whatever, shoo. You know what I mean? So, and I know we've mentioned this a couple of times, but it always bears reiterating. It's just like, just the classic live and let live. Don't worry about what other people are doing unless it's genuinely having a negative effect on your life. And if it's having a negative effect on your life because you're letting it, because you disagree with their opinion or their likes, you're the problem. Okay? Those are two different things. You know, somebody like crashing into your car every day is a negative impact on your life that makes sense, and you won't have a problem with them. But just because your neighbor, you know, I don't know, listens to Taylor Swift every day and you hate Taylor Swift, as long as it's not outside their reasonable hours, they can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where I always stress the point to myself. It's like, yeah, just because I don't like this thing doesn't mean other people can't, and I'm not going to worry about them doing it. And I'm certainly not going to go around and tell people they can't do it, and or worry to the extent that it causes me like emotional harm. It's like, oh, this is causing me, like, you know, it's keeping me up at night, it's stressing me out. It's like, why? It has literally nothing to do with you, man. Like, you are damaging yourself on your own, so you are the problem. So you just need to let it go. It's way easier, way better for you. You know, if that person over there likes avocados and you don't, let them eat them. That simple. Don't worry about the fact that you don't like them. Just move on with your day. But either way, they've done, again, a great job with this. Everything that they're portraying, all this stuff. You know, keeping in tow with Mari and staying on, you know, her diet is important, because that's going to be just a thing that's going on in the background for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, all these little cut-ins for what's going on with these situations. Once again, Gojo coming to terms with, yes, everybody has hobbies and they're not afraid to be proud of it and stuff like that. And we talked about before that certain childhood traumas like that can stick with you until it's kind of proven otherwise. And that's one of the bigger overarching things of this series that I think a lot of people overlook, is a lot of this series, while it is, you know, a rom-com and stuff like that, it's still a very serious series about, you know, learning to accept people's hobbies and what they do with their time, and just letting them have fun, and, you know, don't do what, you know, his cousin or whoever she was, like, that judged him and like scarred him for his entire childhood did to him, and him overcoming, you know, the stigma and being like, oh no, it's okay for me to want to be a Kashidashi. You know what I mean? It's fine for me to do these things because plenty of other people do it, and it's really not that big of a deal. It's just a hobby, and or in his case, he wants it to be his main profession, like his grandfather. So it's also a story of overcoming reasonable childhood trauma. You know, it was nothing like super major, like, you know, he's getting beat by his parents or something like super bad, but emotional damage for a kid of that age can stick with them, especially if it's not talked out. And again, he lost both of his parents and he only has grandfather, so it was a completely different situation. So it's just one of those things that I think gets kind of like overshadowed a little bit in the fact, with all the, like, you know, fun, happy-go-lucky stuff that's going on, it's still Gojo overcoming that just part of his life and moving on and becoming a well-adjusted and happy person. So either way, everything in here once again was solid. They're setting up the nun stuff. I believe I need to read a couple more chapters going into next week, but I did the big brain move, and instead of just bookmarking my Dress Up Darling, the source material itself, I started bookmarking the chapter I stopped reading on. Big brain moves, I know. So at least I'll be able to jump right back in. I think I stopped on chapter 70 or something like that. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to make sure I'm caught up and I can keep talking about what's happening. But we got left on this, the Juju thing. Again, I thought they were gonna go like 2 sentences more, because I think it would have been slightly funnier. But it is what it is. I think we all know what's coming. It's not really a spoiler. We all know what's gonna happen here, right? So either way, this will be a solid start to next week's episode, and we'll kick off the nun coffin cosplay stuff for the kind of Among Us like mystery game, except it's nuns. It's kind of weird. It's like Clue. They'll probably they kind of already did explain what the game was about in passing. So either way, solid episode. I'm enjoying everything they added to it. It's doing everything that it needs to. That's all I got. You got anything else, Age?
Not particularly. Like, the comedy in this one was probably some of the best they've had in a while, but overall, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about specifically. It was basically just, let's do the cosplay event and shenanigans happen.
Pretty much. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, people of YouTube, beyond whoever you're watching, we always appreciate you stopping by and hanging with us here in the dojo for more Anime Night in the Dojo. And this was My Dress Up Darling, Season 2, Episode 8. So, have a good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Have a good one. See you next time.
Hey everyone, Victoria here. If you enjoyed the video, please consider pushing those like and subscribe buttons. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks again for your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.